QAGOMA, and I'm talking quietly because I'm in a very powerful room. Today is the opening of X's Beautiful Wickedness, and I'm here with the artists herself. I've just experienced the most incredible aesthetic, mind-blowing moments by looking at the work, and I'm going to have a chat to X here. How are you, X?
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks so much for taking the time to chat. First of all, I just want to say your work is so incredible, the detail, the depth, but also the contrast and the contradictions between the beauty and the darkness and the death and the life, as you know. But I want to talk about this work in particular because you're taking on the hideous scourge that is domestic violence here in Australia. Can you talk us through how this work came about?
Okay, the painting behind is the foundation of the fabric, so the painting existed first. Simon Elliott, who is the Deputy Director of QAGOMA, so I'm a Canberra person. Simon was Deputy Director at the NGA, and he saw this picture and was a bit confronted by it at exhibition in Sydney, and I made a crack that it would make a great shotgun wedding dress. Being that I'm not the marrying sort, I don't kind of get into that, and it was sort of forgotten by at that point. And then sometime later, 7 or 8 months later, I got a phone call from Simon saying, well, we want to commission you for that wedding dress, and I'd already forgotten about that idiotic crack I made. So it took us 11 weeks from beginning to end. It was a really fast project because so many people were involved. And so I think, yes, we had the dressmaker, the printers, who else was involved? And it was based actually on what is now conceived as the most famous wedding dress in history. So my friend Yanni Liangas in Canberra, a man I went to art school with, or he was a couple of years younger than me, has enormously weird taste and exquisite taste at the same time. Is quite an enigmatic man. And I'd told him, oh, we're working on this. I'm making this wedding dress, and we're just discussing what I might do, what design it might be. And we're discussing various famous wedding dresses, and he just said, oh, it's got to be Julie Andrews' wedding dress from The Sound of Music.
Yes. That is one of my favourites.
It is now conceived as the most beautiful wedding dress in cinema. Right, yes. So at the time it was nothing, you know, nobody, and it was made by nuns, which I thought was really funny, in a period of the invasion of the Nazis. Yes. So I thought it was quite an interesting thing to discuss in a time of increasing, you know, right-wing political viewpoints in this country. So it has there's a subtext to the choice of this wedding dress. But it's also I use the orchids because orchids are always perceived as highly sexualized flowers. And a friend who's a surgeon had a look at this picture and he said, oh, X, how interesting, you've performed an orchidectomy in your work. And I discovered that an orchidectomy is the removal of a man's testicles. And
that is the first I've ever heard of that, but no, that's a really interesting procedure there, X.
Yes. And so, you know, the whole premise of a shotgun wedding is one that is a forced wedding, or one if the woman is pregnant, has to get married, forced to be married at a time where a woman could not be married and have children. It was, you know, a crime. Yeah. So it has all these sort of connotations of a forced marriage, yes, or a marriage that is not for the best.
Yes, yes.
So it's
with that kind of innate violence.
Indeed. Yeah. Which kind of brings us back to Julie Andrews and, you know, this shotgun wedding she had. In a couple of hours, the nuns made her a wedding dress and they escaped out of Austria. Yes. So I felt as though, you know, it's all sort of a strange knot from the picture, what the picture is and what the dress is. It's kind of, and it always makes me laugh, I have to say.
And I think it's very indicative of what I've seen here today, that a strange knot is a great way to start when describing your word between, on the surface, the craftsmanship and the ability to paint is just like, I've never seen it like this before X, and I'm just saying that. But then you dig deeper, and there's such a complex story of contradiction around power, beauty, and love. But what I loved is finding out that you started off as a punk, and I can still feel the punk vibes. Tell us about that.
Oh, look, I'm a Canberra kid, and the punk movement in Canberra was huge. I remember we'd go to Saints gigs. The Saints played a lot in Canberra. And I remember Chris Bailey stopping the band because it was going nuts at the ANU bar, and he said, "I don't know what's going on in Canberra. Are they putting something in your water?" It was also a time to, it was the period of Margaret Thatcher, of Malcolm Fraser. It wasn't just here.
And Joe up here, Joe Bjorka-Peterson.
Mass youth unemployment. I was out of school. I didn't know one person who had a job. 49% youth unemployment at that time. It was really tough. And so you can't expect... And I think, too, they were very conservative governments who found that young people were better off gone somewhere else. So when you've got nothing to lose, you can be the most dangerous of them all.
That's good advice, X. I really like that as well. You're giving me a lot of really great little pieces of information here. And for me, like just seeing your body of work and seeing, I guess, where you started and then into the tattoo work and the blood work, and you've really forged your own path. It feels like you're really such an individual in the way that you've made your work. Do you feel like have you had anyone else that's taken this, that you've been in the steps of, or do you feel like you're like a bit of a pioneer?
Oh, look, there are constant, fabulous people that we, move along behind, or I hate that term, standing on someone's shoulders, but no, everything is in a continuum, so you can't claim anything specific. You're just in a line of time.
And with your work, the detail is phenomenal. Like, what is the process here? Like, it must be very time intensive, but you must love doing it.
Yes, I've often been asked by people, why I don't have a life is because it takes so long to make the work. But I'm dedicated to the work, so it's a happy place for me. Don't have any problems about spending my life doing the work. It's kind of proof that it existed. Yes. So I mark every single day I work on these pieces, so I know exactly how long they take. And that's proof of life, in a way.
And finally, this exhibition opens tomorrow to the public. What would you like people to take away from being in the presence of your work and exploring this exhibition?
God, I don't know. You can't ever vouch for how a person sees something or whether it tweaks something in them. So you can only just hope that you don't get your head chopped off.
That's a good way to start. Well, thank you. I love how you still got your punk vibes going on. It's excellent. But thank you so much for your time. Congratulations. It is phenomenal work, and I really am just blown away by it. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you.